The old farmhouse stood crooked in the moonlight, its weathered boards groaning like the bones of something long dead. No one had lived there for decades, not since the soil turned sour and the crops withered black on the vines. The locals whispered about the land, calling it cursed, though none dared say why. The truth was buried deeper than the roots that twisted beneath the earth, roots that pulsed faintly in the dark, waiting. You shouldn't have come back. But the letter had been too, compelling, the handwriting unmistakably your grandmother's, except she'd been dead for 20 years. The paper smelled of damp earth and copper, the ink smudged as if stained by trembling fingers. It spoke of a debt unpaid, a secret unburied. And so you returned, driving down the overgrown path where the trees leaned too close, their branches scraping against the car like skeletal hands. The key was still under the cracked flower pot, just as she'd written. It fit into the lock with a rusty shriek, the door swinging open to reveal a hallway choked with dust and shadows. The air was thick, cloying, carrying the faint metallic tang of something long since spilled. Your footsteps echoed too loudly, as though the house itself was holding its breath. Upstairs, the floorboards creaked under an unseen weight. You told yourself it was the wind, the settling of an old structure, but the sound was too deliberate. A slow, dragging step, then silence. The attic hatch hung slightly ajar, a black maw yawning above. Something glistened on the ladder's rungs. You touched it. Your fingers came away sticky and dark. The cellar was worse. The door was nailed shut, but the wood around the hinges splintered outward, as if something had forced its way out from within. The basement stairs descended into perfect blackness, the air so cold it burned your lungs. From below came a wet, rhythmic sound, dripping or perhaps chewing. You backed away, but not before noticing the handprints on the walls, small and childlike, smeared in something that wasn't mud. The journal was hidden in the flower bin, its pages brittle with age. Your grandmother's frantic scribbles spoke of a bargain made, of a hunger in the earth. The family had always been poor, always struggling, until the year the harvest came in unnaturally rich, the vegetables swollen and gleaming. But by winter the livestock began vanishing. Then the essay, children. The last entry was a single sentence, the ink blotted with tears or blood. It wants more. Outside, the garden was overgrown, but the plants didn't rustle in the wind. They stood too still, their leaves too glossy, their stems too thick. You knelt, brushing aside the weeds, and your hand sank into the soil, warm, pulsing. The earth shuddered. Something coiled around your wrist, fibrous and strong, yanking you downward. You tore free, stumbling back, but the ground split open in jagged seams, exhaling a stench of rot and iron. The roots were moving, not just shifting, not just creeping, reaching. They burst from the soil like serpents, glistening with a dark, viscous fluid. The trees bent at unnatural angles, their bark splitting to reveal wet red wood beneath. The house groaned, its foundation cracking as thick tendrils forced their way through the floorboards. You ran. But the path had changed. The trees had closed in, their roots rising to form a writhing wall. The car wouldn't start. The headlights flickered, illuminating the shapes emerging from the soil, pale, half-formed things, their bodies tangled with roots, their mouths gaping soundlessly. The letter had been a lure. The debt was yours now. The last thing you saw before the roots dragged you under was the harvest moon, huge and crimson, reflected in the dark fluid rising to meet you. The earth was hungry, and it would always remember the taste of your blood.